On this episode of The Geek State, we now know who really is under the mask. Who is the Mandalorian? We have answers, and no, it's not a spoiler.
The year is 1984. Chris is almost 3, and Wonder Woman and Steve are coming to save the day.
The Ecto-1 is back in action in the very first trailer for Ghostbusters Afterlife. All that and more on this episode of The Geek State.
Are you troubled by strange noises in the middle of the night?
Do you experience feelings of dread in your basement or attic?
Have you or any of your family ever seen a spook, specter, or ghost?
If the answer is yes, then don't wait another minute. Pick up your phone and call the professionals. Go Ghostbusters! Our courteous and efficient staff is on call 24 hours a day to serve all your supernatural elimination needs.
We're ready to believe you!
Stand by alert.
This is it!
This podcast is making the upside down right side up again. This is The Geek State.
10 years ago, Avatar hit the big screens, and you know what? I still can't remember any of the characters' names. This is The Geek State, the podcast about all the cool stuff going on in the world of geek. I'm Chris, and back with us this week, returning, is our good buddy James. James, you're a huge Avatar fan, so how are you feeling about this 10-year anniversary?
I'm super excited.
Favorite character?
John. John Carmack, something like that. John, I'm thinking it's JC something. I don't know. The main guy, the guy that was in the wheelchair. Is his name not John?
No, I do actually know the name, but I only know that because it's on Disney Plus. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to revisit this because honestly, the last time I saw it was in theaters 10 years ago. And while it was a spectacle for the, whole 3D stuff, my memory of it has been kind of like, well, it was okay. It was, but I gotta say, I watched it and I was just gonna stop it and go about doing other things. But then I came back to finish it and I was like, it's not so bad, but I also don't feel like I want any more of it. It's Jake Sully, by the way.
Jake, not John.
Yeah.
The other space marine name.
Somewhere, if we dug deep enough in the IMDb, that guy's in there somewhere. It sounds perfect. It sounds just exactly like you would expect from a James Cameron kind of thing. We've got more Avatars coming our way. Don't worry, we're not going to talk too much about Avatar. In fact, we're going to keep moving right along. But Disney does have some Avatar sequels in the pipeline. You can listen to an older episode of the Geek State to hear about what Disney's got planned.
One thing I find interesting about Disney's lineup is they're not releasing. Am I going crazy, or they're not releasing Episode 8 on Disney Plus until after Episode 9 comes out?
That's a good question.
What a ridiculous thing to do.
Right. So to clarify that, if you're wondering, if you're trying to binge watch all of the Star Wars movies before Rise of Skywalker comes out, you can't do it all on Disney Plus. And the reason for that is back in the day, before Disney Plus was even a twinkle in Bob Iger's eye, they had signed some deals with Netflix. So Netflix has this exclusivity window that has not yet expired for The Last Jedi or Solo. So The Last Jedi will show up on Disney Plus in January, but we're going to have to wait a lot longer for Solo to show up on Disney Plus. So that's the reason.
You guys should have seen it in theaters.
Yeah.
Support
and then
art.
Complained about it on Twitter.
Yeah. You probably wouldn't have because it was a pretty good movie.
It is. And I do, if I go back and I don't remember, I think we were still doing the old podcast when the movie came out. And I do remember feeling like, I was a little thrown off. It's so much better when you remove your preconceptions of what you are expecting, because if we were back in 1980 when Empire Strikes Back came out, that's what The Last Jedi is. The group gets split up. There's no happy ending. Luke fails. There's so many things about it, and that I think are parallel with The Last Jedi. Anyways, we're not going to get into the politics of all of that because it's very divisive, and I think that is not helpful. And I don't honestly want to give the people who are, that hate on other people for liking The Last Jedi any airtime. So, but I do think we are now at that time, James, that we need to get into our Twitter accounts and add some muted hashtags.
It is definitely that time.
We are
I won't
so
even get to see it until my brother gets into town, which is not until the 23rd. So I have a whole weekend that I have to avoid everything. The internet, life.
Wait, what day is that on? Because we need
Monday.
Okay, so you seeing it Monday night, I'm assuming.
I don't know when I'm going to see it. I'm going to see it eventually.
James, that stresses me out so much to not know when, like, just for myself, like, I've had such confidence and security knowing back in October, I was seeing it next Thursday,
right?
You know, at 6 p.m. Like
it's
the
weird
very
to think
first.
That it's that close, huh?
It really kind of is, and to be thinking about how it is, quote unquote, the last in the Skywalker saga. You know,
yeah. I just remember when they announced the whole Disney acquisition, and they announced a schedule of these movies. I was like, 2019 is like Monopoly time. Like that's just fake time. Nobody's living that long.
Absolutely. And it wasn't too long after the Disney purchase that we were like, let's do a podcast. You know, we were in the lead up to The Force Awakens back in the old S'more Geeks days. And now we're at the end of this, Skywalker saga. So it's very exciting. And there's a lot of things. I do have to say, I was feeling pretty good that I was staying away from the really groundbreaking spoilers, even though every once in a while I'll peek into Reddit's Star Wars leaks subreddit every once in a while. But now I'm kind of like, nope, we're too close to things. And the the for your consideration page, the one that Disney puts up that says, hey, you should consider these people for this award and that award. They put online the for your consideration original score, which included 23 audio tracks from the score. Now, not a complete track, score of the whole movie. The tracks were about 1 minute to 1:30 each. And those tend to be highlighting the newer pieces of the scores, as opposed to, well, here's a big chunk of the movie that's reusing stuff that we've heard in the movie since the 1970s. And I did browse through all of them. Don't do it.
You're killing yourself.
I did. But that's the thing. It's just the music, and I only did it one time, so it's not something that stuck with me. And plus, knowing that this is a movie that's going to not probably reinvent a lot of new pieces of score, that like new themes and stuff. It's going to use the leitmotifs from everything that's come before it.
Chris, you've waited your entire life for this. You can wait one more week.
It's true, and I will, and I'm done. The good thing is Disney did take down that page. However, when they uploaded the pages, they only listed the tracks by number. So it just said track 1, 2, 3, etc.
That's good at least. So it wasn't like Kylo's death.
Right. Rey's parents are Ewoks,
right.
Like they avoided that kind of thing. However, I think in the code, they did have some names, but I don't think those names are the official soundtrack track listings. Like there wasn't a Qui-Gon's Noble End, like what happened with the Phantom Menace when that soundtrack came out 2 weeks prior.
I do remember that being an issue.
I was like, oh, well, I mean, we kind of all knew this, something like that happened when one of the trailers for the Phantom Menace had Obi-Wan screaming no, and it was very dramatic. It was clearly somebody was dying, so we all assumed, but the soundtrack kind of nailed it, and said, okay, yeah, it's Qui-Gon.
Also, speaking of trailers ruining things for Star Wars, have you beaten Jedi Fallen Order yet?
I have not.
Okay, well, don't watch TV. So
really?
Yeah, it literally ruins the biggest. It's been coming on a lot with sports, so I think you've been good for a while.
I'm good,
but there's definitely just a very late spoiler in the one of the things that made me go, holy crap, this is great, is in one of the trailers. Yeah, so. So
I've been kind of waiting. I've been waiting to play a little bit more because the way I play video games, James, is if I get stuck on something, I tend to try it maybe 2 more times and then I'm just done. I'm done, and I'm so early in the game that I'm still on basically the first planet, the one you get to choose, and like I said, super early. And there's these really fast moving pistons that I have to jump on. And in my head, when kind of assessing the situation, I have to jump to this one and that one and this one. And then finally, like, I was on YouTube, like, okay, I need to know how to beat this. I only have to jump to the second one and then go to the right.
Yes.
And I was like,
I know exactly what you're talking about. You were going left.
I just thought I had to keep going straight. Like somehow I had to keep moving across these moving pillars, but I don't.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes.
And I'm just like, I'm such a dummy. Like, check the map. It literally shows you the path.
Yeah. Wow.
So
I still love you, Chris.
Otherwise, it's great. It's so good. And so, yes, go onto your Twitter, check your muted words. I suggest obviously doing hashtag The Rise of Skywalker. I would throw Rey, Kylo, Palpatine,
Delete
CeeLo
the app.
Bibble.
Delete the app.
It's the only safe way to do things. But we got some cool stuff going on in the news. We got a little Mandalorian stuff, some stuff from VR, a little more Star Wars, and we're going to talk some big time trailers. So hang on. It's time for the news. The Oculus Quest got an update this week, and it added some really cool features. It actually added a feature that wasn't supposed to come until later in 2020, and that's hand and finger tracking. Now, my Oculus, as of right now, has not received the update, but it is rolling out to devices over the next couple of days. And what's neat about this was announced and showed off at Oculus Connect 6, which happened kind of late summer, early fall. And it is basically what it sounds like. And it looks, from what I've seen review wise, it's kind of magical. You can drop the controllers. You can see these outlines of your hands. And for right now, you can only use this interface. You can only use your hands and fingers for in the menus and for the first party apps like the Oculus browser and video controls and stuff like that. But you just intuitively reach out, grab, pinch, zoom. I'm excited, and I want my device to update. I know, James, you don't have an Oculus Quest, but I do want to recommend that if you are on the fence about one, that right now is a great time to do it. It's not cheaper in price. It's still $399 for the base model, but they are throwing in Vader Immortal through the 30th of next month. So at the end of January, you can pick up a Oculus Quest and a $30 game, which as far as Star Wars games go, this is a game I have finished. And Vader Immortal is really incredibly immersive. And then it does have some pretty decent in-game content with the updated lightsaber dojo. So the more you progress through the game, you're able to upgrade your lightsaber, change the color of the crystals, get some legacy lightsabers. You can dual wield, which I'm not going to lie. I was battling off some remote training droids, and while dual wielding, and I reached up and my ceiling fan smacked my hand, and I have never been more scared in a virtual reality setting in my entire life.
That happens. Because
I was reaching up to smack this droid with the lightsaber, and where it was, the droid was about where my hand was. So it was this connection between my eyes and my brain and how what my arm felt at the exact same time. And I was just like, I took the headset off and it was just like, I need reality for a second.
Yeah, that has happened to me before with the PlayStation VR, where I just scurry away too far away, because mine is wired, obviously, where yours is kind of not tethered, but you scurry a little too far away and then you get a little tug on the thing when you try and turn your head. You're like, oh, and then you take it off and you're like 30 feet from where you started. Like, right.
But, the nice thing about the Quest is it has the room scale. So it has the Guardian that you set up. So if for example, in Vader Immortal, there's really large rooms. And if I had like a gymnasium to play in, I wouldn't have to teleport anywhere in the game. Mm-hmm. I could walk around the whole thing.
Right. And that's kind of cool.
It's really cool. And there's some interesting things about stuff that happens that I don't want to spoil, that are canon, and they're pretty they're pretty big things. And they're added into that, Star Wars storytelling. So
I just lay a towel down, and if I step off the towel, I know I've gone too far.
That's awesome.
I'm
so low tech. Yeah, that's so low tech, but I love it.
Well, Chris, there's some other news that's been floating around, and it really is about a question that you and I have been asking for about 4 weeks now, if I had to guess, and that is, who is the Mandalorian? And no, we're not here to tell you who the Mandalorian is, friends. We do not do that on the show. We do not spoil things, right, Chris?
That's correct. This is not a spoiler.
We do not spoil things on this show. What we do tell you is that on episode 4, the Mandalorian was not Pedro Pascal.
Gasp!
Gasp! It was actually mostly Brendan Wayne, who is the grandson of the great John Wayne.
Yeah.
And apparently, Pedro Pascal was in rehearsals for King Lear on Broadway, and so when they were doing the episode,
he wasn't available.
He wasn't available, so they weren't working with him. So they had a stand-in. Whether or not this was, I don't know, was this guy like maybe second in line to get the role? Who is Brandon Wayne? We need to find this Brendan Wayne.
I know he's done a lot of stunt work, and back when the Mandalorian premiered in that episode we did a few weeks ago, I brought up that I don't think that for the majority of what we've seen so far that it's even Pedro Pascal at all, that he was cast well into production of this show, and which is fine. It's like David Prowse, he was in the Darth Vader suit sometimes, and sometimes it was Bob Anderson, and
right.
There was various people, but I mean, Pedro Pascal's the voice. Later on in this article that was interviewing Bryce Dallas Howard, who directed episode 4, that Pedro would provide feedback and some insight into kind of how he sees the character, and then the stand-ins and stunt doubles would do some of the stuff that he doesn't do. We do know that at some point he does wear the costume. We've seen some behind the scenes pictures that were taken. I think makingstarwars.net posted those. But I honestly think, like, for the most part, what we've seen has been Brendan Wayne, and there's 2 other guys, another stunt guy and stand-in.
I'd be willing to bet that Brendan Wayne almost got this job if you just do a Google image search, and I encourage the fans to do this as well. But if you Google image search him, take a look. He looks very Mandalorian-like until he smiles, and then that's when he lost the gig. If I had to guess, it is not. Not great.
But there's definitely the family resemblance is there.
Yeah, it's definely there.
It's definitely there.
Anywho,
it's pretty cool. I do, I do want to. I'm going to first ask. You've caught up, like. You've seen,
yes.
Okay, so you've seen the last episode, which was chapter 5. As of recording, this will drop either the day that depends. There might be a new episode of The Mandalorian out by the time that this podcast comes out. So what I'm going to kind of tiptoe into some speculation, but I want to go here because I want it on record, basically, that the very end of the chapter 5. So if you haven't watched it, this is the time to tune out. Also, why haven't you? Like, it's 30 minutes. At the very end, Fennec Shand is laying on the ground. It's kind of like a after credit scene that doesn't have credits before it. And there's a pair of feet that you see coming towards her. And then he reaches down, and then it goes to black. There are 2 things to note of this. I think a lot of people are assuming, just from watching it, and this is what I saw the majority online, James, was that, this is Giancarlo Esposito's character, who is Moff Gideon, that we're assuming this is his introduction because we know he's coming eventually. He's in the trailers. We haven't seen him yet. This is him. But then there's another little subsect, which I'm kind of in the middle, because I kind of think it's either definitely Boba Fett or this is a massive troll tease by Dave Filoni and Matthew Wood and David Acord. Matthew Wood, David Acord do the sound. Because when this guy is walking up towards Fennec Shand, the sound effects that are being used are the same Spurs sound effects, the Spurs hitting the ground, that were used in Empire Strikes Back when Boba Fett makes his entrance on Cloud City.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Not only that. So Spurs alone, I'd be like, well, it could be another Mandalorian. It's just how it's just a Western trope that they're putting in here. The sound that we hear first is the same kind of radio static being tuned in sound effect that they used in A New Hope, the special edition, the scene with Jabba the Hutt. When Jabba's leaving and then Boba Fett enters the frame, we hear this radio static sound effect. And it's both that and the Spurs. I'm like, okay, Jon Favreau straight up said Boba Fett is not in this, so I'm going to give him benefit of the doubt. But then don't.
But how many times has J.J. Abrams said that somebody's not in something? Like
Con. Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, I don't know. You would think that. I mean, the guy was wearing black boots, though, right? If I'm remembering correctly, so I would assume
he's definitely not. He's not wearing the Boba Fett outfit.
And you can't just be doing that.
Well, think about it. Okay, we're on Tatooine. He fell into the Sarlacc pit. Now, what this, was he wearing Beskar? We don't know. That's not officially canon as far as the movies go. And in the Aftermath books, which are Disney canon, the armor was found. It's Mandalorian armor. Not explicitly said it's Boba Fett, but it's hinted at that the armor is not with Boba Fett anymore because Boba Fett is quote unquote dead. Excuse me. But I think this is a really unique opportunity because fans of Boba Fett, like the hardcore Boba Fett fans, were kind of upset. And I'm using kind of in like the lightest of terms when the backstory was told in Attack of the Clones that, Boba Fett's a clone and he's not really even a Mandalorian, Right. Because back in the, in the Clone Wars era, Mandalorians were, from Mandalore, or, from Concord Dawn, from, Concordia or wherever, like they were like born there, raised there, etc. But now we're in this new version of what the Mandalorians are post the Purge, post Empire, where it's more about a life that you choose. And this is an opportunity if this is where if what they're wanting to do with Boba Fett is if they bring him back, now they've given him an avenue to not mess with what George originally did, but then now but now he is a Mandalorian. Yeah. That this is the way.
Yeah, it is pretty odd when you look back at like Jango and you're like, he was the worst Mandalorian ever. He like never wore his helmet. So,
maybe that's the reason they can't take off the helmet because it's not Pedro Pascal. He's not. They're like, we have to write some reason why they don't take off their helmets. But anyways, I have some thoughts on it. And I was just like, man, that's kind of cool. I'm okay with it. That if that's what they want to do. Now, of course, this episode of the podcast might drop the same day as that next episode, and they might pan up, and it's like, it's Jar Jar Binks and military fatigues. Who knows? Yeah. I mean, the feet are totally wrong. I just
feel like he's too big of a character and has too much of a following to throw him away on this. Like, not that I say this is wrong, this is bad, but you could make a Boba Fett movie and it would be huge.
Well, they tried to with Josh Trank. And then he made Fantastic Four. So
right. Well, obviously that had yes, because they found that was not the right avenue to go. Right. That story, right? But
absolutely,
because they didn't want to waste it on something that sucked. Not saying this sucks, but I'm just saying like I feel like that if you're going to bring that character back, it's on a much larger stage. Conor McGregor ain't fighting in front of 200 people anymore. That's what I'm saying.
Well, the Mandalorian's fighting in front of 10 million people at this point. So, I just think it's a possibility. And I think there's a reason why we didn't see who it was. And I think that's on purpose. And I know it could be a giant troll, and it probably is, and that's okay. But some other news, some more Star Wars news. We've got some non-Star Wars stuff, I promise, coming up. But so James and I have yet to go to Galaxy's Edge. It is eventually going to happen for myself. I don't know, James, if you're even considering.
I'll go eventually. I'm going to wait until that whatchamacallit opens. The hotel. Did you see that?
My gosh,
wait
yes.
for the Star Wars hotel to open up now.
The Starliner, yeah. That's got to be really expensive. And I
flush with cash. I told you I'd give you $10 earlier today.
That's true, you did, and I'll put that in a jar and save that up. But if you're not waiting for the Galactic Starliner hotel to open, but you were waiting for the actual completion of Galaxy's Edge, which kind of finished up with Rise of the Resistance, which is the new ride that just opened at Walt Disney World's Hollywood Studios. It just opened last week, and I actually watched, because I'm a huge nerd, I watched the live dedication ceremony. There weren't any celebrities really at this one. When they opened up Galaxy's Edge, they had, Mark and Harrison and Lando, which is not his real name, Billy D. Williams. But for this one, instead, they had kind of like they had skits, they were like, oh, you're going to join us in the rebellion. And then they had Kylo and Rey had a big lightsaber fight, which was cool. But the thing that made everybody's kind of jaw drop is they're talking on the radio saying like, we're going to scramble the X-Wings because the First Order's here. And then right behind the backdrop, the spires, came these flying X-Wings that rose up, made a turn, and then flew off in the distance, and then with some lighting effects, kind of like they went into hyperspace. And these were, in fact, drones. These were like SUV-sized drones that Boeing helped make for them.
Jesus.
It's just like, I was worried for a second because I'm watching this live, and I was thinking, where are they going to go? Are they going to fly over the audience? But they didn't. They kind of, they rose up, they flew out just a little bit and then turned and went the other direction. Cause I was thinking, oh God, like they have to have tested these things well in advance, right? Like multiple safety tests that I'm not going to watch one of these X-Wings like plummet from the sky and fall on a crowd of people at Disney World.
Like, I mean, yeah, I guess, but crashes happen at air shows all the time, and they practice a lot.
That's so true.
things go wrong sometimes.
They do.
I'm glad they didn't, Chris.
me 3.
I don't know how I
2.
feel about SUV-sized drones, though. That's where I'm going to go with that. Of course,
I'm just thinking
we have
the size.
Air Force has drones that are that size, so
absolutely,
it's
way bigger.
And Boeing probably helped make those, so I'm sure I'm sure it was all fine. I'm sure it was.
They got the right people.
Yeah.
It wasn't DJI or the Mavic people. The GoPros company didn't make those for them. The ride is fantastic. Now I'm going to mention a few things. So if you're one of those people that's like, I don't want to get spoiled by a theme park ride, again, you're probably not listening because you're probably the same people who haven't watched Mandalorian, which is fine, which is cool. But there are many really amazing point of view videos on the internet you can watch from the line experience of seeing all the cool stuff in the line, and then the pre-show. And this thing is like 4 rides in one thing. The total experience once you're in pre-show is about 23 minutes.
Wow.
Which is crazy. Again, you're going to wait like 2.5 hours at this point, for it, maybe even 3, but you go in and then there's this incredible hologram of Rey. And I've seen all kinds of video footage of this. And I know that it's being projected on some sort of thin material or whatever, but the effect is very convincing. She's like, you got to go on this mission, meet up with this, folks, and then you're going to go on the shuttle, and then they take you out. Now you're outside in the open, and you board a shuttle with a bunch of people. And there is a Mon Cal, his name's like Commander Beck or something. And then Nine Numb is the pilot. And you get on board, you take off. Poe is flying. He's your wingman through this whole thing. He's flying escort. And you can look out the windows, and the ship moves, the inside, and then, oh no, it's the First Order. And then you're, under attack, and the whole thing shakes, and then they draw you into a tractor beam. The doors open, And then when they open, you're in a different place now. Now, when the doors open, you're on a First Order Star Destroyer in the hangar bay, like full size. And then there's a whole series of things where you have to escape. There's incredible video projection tricks. And then the coolest thing that I didn't know that was going to happen is, and are you okay with me like spoiling this for you, I guess?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay, just making sure. I gave everybody else the fair warning. But at the end, you're on this trackless ride vehicle that's being driven by a droid, and he goes into an escape pod, and then the escape pod does like a Tower of Terror drop while you're in it. And then now you're like on a motion simulator, like Star Tours.
Weird.
And then the ride ends, and you exit the escape pod, and now you're outside. Like,
yeah.
Oh my gosh!
I did see one video of that, and the guy was like really weird. So it kind of was off-putting. He was pretending like he was actually there. It was just very strange. He was talking to people as if he was role playing. I was very confused. I didn't like it, Chris. It made me uncomfortable.
Fair enough. I'm with you though on that one a little bit. I think there's something to be said about the immersion and kind of play along with the illusion. But yeah, there's a line. I'm not some people assume like, oh, I bet Chris dresses up, and cosplays and stuff. I'm like, no, I'm good.
I mean, that stuff's fine. I'm all for it. And I get it. This guy that was doing it has an audience, so he has to like play it up a little bit. But I was just kind of like, I watched it on mute most of the way. Cause he was like telling the people, like he was like trying to talk to the people who were working. And it was just very like, they were like, get out of here. You're like, keep going, please. There's a
billion. There's a billion sweaty people trying to get on this ride in the middle of Florida. Move along.
Keep it going.
Move along. I do want to just say I have nothing wrong with cosplay. It's just not for me. If I felt like I had a costume worthy of it, I think I would do it, but I don't.
I'm just not fit enough to it for it.
I'm fit enough to play all kinds of characters like Jabba.
Right. I could be overweight Jedi number 3.
Porkins.
Yeah, Porkins. That's a good one.
R.I.P. Porkins. Rise of the Resistance is open now at Disney World's Hollywood Studios. It will open up early next year for those in Anaheim, California at Disneyland.
Take out the officials counting.
Drive away your worries and cares at this theater, where you will see the finest motion pictures of all time, soon to be released.
While we're all taking a huge deep breath before The Rise of Skywalker premieres, just like at the movies, we've got to talk some trailers. We're going to have some awesome trailers to see over the next few months as we start getting sneak peeks at the summer movie slate. We already saw the first trailer for Black Widow last week, and this week we got a few that dropped that are also worth noting. And the first one out of the gate was the one for Wonder Woman 1984, which comes out June 5th in 2020. And I don't know about you, James, but I was never really all that excited about the current DC stuff. But something about the way that this trailer is cut together, I'm pretty excited about this one. Yeah,
I mean, it looks good. Sometimes when the superhero movies take place in like a different time, I can't tell if it's like, I can't tell why it's doing that, or if it's like trying to kind of in my brain, the one has 80s themes, that's Guardians of the Galaxy's thing. Like that's its through line, kind of, having all the 80s references and things like that. So to see it in Wonder Woman is a little, it's a little strange for me, but it looks good. The movie looks fun. Pedro Pascal does not look like the Mandalorian, or what I envisioned the Mandalorian to look like. In fact, I had no clue that was him until I saw it on the internet. I was like, "Oh, that's the same guy," because he looks quite different. Yeah,
he's playing Maxwell Lord. All of these things are things I had to research because I am. And I feel like you are mostly too. We're a little bit more Marvel.
Yes.
And the only lore that I know better of anything in DC is Batman.
Right.
Because of, just.
Which is the same as like 90% of the population, just for the record.
Absolutely. Grew up with the animated series. You learn a lot. You also, I was also just a huge Batman fan as a little kid, as everybody was in the 80s and early 90s. And even to this day. Sorry. But I do think the 1980s setting has a purpose for the story. From the things that I've been reading. So 1984 is obviously, it's not just a random date. It's the year that a lot of really cool movies came out. No, but it's also like the Orwell 1984. And Maxwell has some kind of mind control stuff in his comic history, and then in the trailer we see some large satellite dishes, and we see people kind of mesmerized like watching his infomercial at the mall, and I think that kind of all plays into it. And then we see Wonder Woman use her tiara as like a boomerang to destroy the video surveillance cameras.
Right.
So I think they're going to use kind of that 1984, Big Brother's watching kind of thing as part of the storyline, for this.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. Yeah. I get it. And I'm excited to see this movie. I'm just kind of interested in yeah, I don't know.
I also feel like this movie was already supposed to have already come out.
Yeah.
I feel like I'd heard about this for such a long time, had seen leaked, pictures and posters and stuff. And then I have a feeling like this got moved, but I don't have any of that stuff pulled up.
Right.
We see Kristen Wiig is in it. She's playing what looks to be a friend of Diana at the beginning. Her name is Barbara Minerva, but we also know that that's Cheetah. Cheetah from the comics, the more recent version is, she basically had some sort of, artifact, and it kind of turned her into the villain. Basically what happened, it's like she's Selena Kyle in the Wonder Woman universe. So she turns into Catwoman, but this cat's a cheetah, you see. So it's totally different. Another thing of note, people are on the internet, and I think this is possible. There's a shot of Steve Trevor, Chris Pine's character, which, by the way, he's alive somehow,
and
I'm not 100. Yeah. So I'm not sure if it's, because that's how he looked when he died.
Yeah.
Basically. So that's the version of him that exists in Wonder Woman's memory. So I'm wondering, is he really brought back from the dead somehow, through maybe, Pedro Pascal's character's, ability to, use, is he even really there?
Right.
There's a shot of them in a jet flying through the 4th of July fireworks at Washington, DC. And I can only assume you can only get away with that if your jet's invisible, right?
It would need to be an invisible jet. That is correct. Otherwise you would get, shot down. You can't just be flying around up there.
Absolutely. There's also a shot in the trailer of her using the golden lasso. She's just running, and then she throws the golden lasso into the sky and pulls herself up.
That's another part I'm not too sure about. She's connecting the golden lasso to lightning. Very confused by that.
Okay. Well, I was too. I was like, that looks my first reaction was, that's badass. And then I was like, wait, what? Lightning? And then I had to Google it. Because she's the daughter of Zeus. And in the comics, she does have that ability to like ride lightning. So there's, some of that demigoddess stuff that she's able to do. It looks cool. It's a little Spider-Man-y.
It's very Spider-Man-y, but
I'm okay.
Yeah, it's fine. They had a little training montage of little kid Wonder Women running around.
Yeah. So it looks like we're going back to Themyscira, or however you say it. So we're going to see more of that, which I think that's, with the exception of the poorly animated bad guy from the first Wonder Woman, Ares, or right? Was it Ares?
No, anyways, I don't know.
It was a bad guy, and he was all CG, and it looked really bad. But all that stuff with the Amazons was, I think, some of the more standout moments from the movie to begin with. Mm-hmm. And Warner Brothers is actually developing, I think it's going to be for HBO Max, but they're going to be doing a TV series set on Themyscira with all the Amazons. So, I mean, essentially it's Xena, but with higher production values, I assume.
With that HBO touch.
Exactly. Well, I don't know about HBO. That's a whole separate thing. But, DC is kind of dipping their toe into, let's just make all our movies rated R. Now the Joker has made $1 bajillion.
I think it's just 1 bajillion. Exactly.
Well,
an exact bajillion.
To the penny. Well, because Bird of Prey now is going to be rated R. That got announced as well.
That movie, I still don't know what that movie's about.
I don't either.
That movie looks batshit crazy.
The only character I recognize.
Sorry if you have to edit that. That movie
I won't.
looks ridiculous.
I think there's no other way to describe a movie with Harley Quinn.
Great title. The movie looks awful though.
So confusing. But I do like that, with the success of Shazam and the Joker, I think that DC's kind of like, you know what, Marvel, you can have this whole connected universe and we'll tie things in a little bit, but we're not too concerned about it. Let's just try to make a good standalone movie. Now, I don't know about the Harley Quinn thing, but we'll reserve thoughts until that comes out. But
Shazam now on HBO.
That's true.
Watch it, kids. Watch it. I've not seen it yet, but you should watch it.
James, it's really good.
I started it. I was a little intoxicated, realized I wanted to be sober to watch it because I was enjoying it. So
good. Yeah.
That's when you know you're not too drunk.
Fantastic. Well, another movie that is coming out that we've talked about when they released a poster, and I kind of, because of the last, okay, so Ghostbusters, when it came back as Ghostbusters Answer the Call, I enjoyed it. It was a funny comedy. I like the ladies that are in it. Like, I'm a massive Saturday Night Live fan. I think it's a fine film on its own, but it didn't get me. I wasn't craving more. I kind of was like, okay, well, that was fun. Ghostbusters Afterlife is being directed by the son of Ivan Reitman, Jason Reitman, that did the original. So he grew up watching his dad make Ghostbusters, and now he gets to make Ghostbusters. Now his dad's also producing it, but Jason wrote and is directing this one. And as soon as the trailer started, I was already in. Like, it has a tone that, again, Wonder Woman has a feeling that I was like, oh, this is kind of Stranger Things. And then Ghostbusters starts, and I haven't even seen Finn, the Mike from Stranger Things. And I haven't seen him yet in the trailer. And I'm like, oh, this kind of feels like Stranger Things. And then he shows up. I was like, okay, yeah, they're definitely, there's some Stranger Things vibes kind of going on here. But this is set, modern day. It's been 30 years since the last ghost sighting. The family moves into a old farm / farmhouse that's kind of close to a mining facility that's actually kind of referenced in the original Ghostbusters. That there was like a cult that kind of was there. They mined metal. I'm assuming that the metal that was mined was used for the building in New York. That was is where all the bad stuff happened. Gozer and the Terror Hounds and all this stuff. Anyways. So it kind of all ties together. Well, they find in this old house the old ghost traps, the Ecto-1, and they've awakened all these ghosts, and now the kids are Ghostbusters. And I'm totally on board, very excited. I was also happy to go onto IMDb and see that Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, Ernie Hudson, Annie Potts, and Sigourney Weaver are all in there with their character names by them, not with the quote unquote like rumored. In the trailer itself, we hear Bill Murray from the original Ghostbusters in it. The Call It Luck,
right?
That whole sequence. Now, James, I want to ask what you think of this Ghostbusters trailer on its own. Just from watching this on its own, what do you think?
So let me preface this by saying I've never seen Ghostbusters. The closest thing to seeing Ghostbusters I've ever had is I think there was a cartoon called The New Ghostbusters that was on Saturday morning cartoons.
I think it was The Real Ghostbusters. The Real
Ghostbusters. You are correct. It wasn't The New Ghostbusters. It was The Real Ghostbusters. I've seen maybe 2 episodes of that as a child, maybe more. I don't remember. I don't remember the show that well. Trailer, it looked fine. I was actually having this discussion at work with one of my coworkers. And I struggle to enjoy things where the main characters that are in peril are children. I don't know why. I don't know whether it's because I don't have kids myself. I don't know why. Maybe I didn't get into too many adventures as a child, so I can't associate with this whole idea of going out and doing crazy stuff. But for some reason, it just doesn't resonate with me. However, the idea that Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, all these groups are coming, or these folks are coming back for it, I hope it's not just like a scene. I hope they are a pivotal part. I do also like the fact that in this trailer, because I'm a very spoilery type person, it appears that everything in this trailer happens in the first 30 minutes of the movie.
Absolutely.
From what I can tell.
This is definitely like, oh, we're here. We have to move. We have to live here.
Yep.
And then, oh, look, there's this cool stuff. Let's try it out.
Also Paul Rudd. So
also, yes. And Paul Rudd. And yes. So that's already fantastic. And yeah. And with the original cast, like I really do hope that it's not like all the action takes place. They save the day. And then all of a sudden these guys show up and are like, good job, kid.
Right.
You know, like, Way to be busting them ghosts.
Yeah, they're like, now you need to join the real Ghostbusters, and then they're like, Ghostbusters Afterlife 2, living again.
Once all the Star Wars dust settles after this thing, I think we're gonna have to revisit Ghostbusters because I've only seen it a few times, and you've never seen it. And it really is a classic, and it really still holds up. There's a great documentary, and we talked about it last week on the show from the people that did the Toys That Made Us. They have a new series called The Movies That Made Us, and they have a really interesting look at the making of Ghostbusters, including the fact that back when they originally were making this, they did not have the rights to call the movie Ghostbusters, because back in the 60s or 70s, there was a show called The Ghostbusters that was owned by Filmation. The same people that did He-Man and stuff like that. And that was owned at the time by Universal Pictures. So when they started making the movie, the studio said, you have to, because we haven't worked out the rights yet, you need to film 2 versions of any time that they mention Ghostbusters. So they would mention, so there's a scene where they're painting the front of the firehouse and they're writing, Ghostbusters. And then they had to reshoot it with the guy writing Ghost Breakers, which was the alternate title that the movie was almost called, was Ghost Breakers. And then they had scenes with like large groups of people that were supposed to be chanting Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters. And then they were going to have to stop the camera and do everything again with them saying Ghost Breakers. But apparently while that scene was happening, one of the producers went to a telephone, called the studio, held it up, and was like, I don't think we're going to get them to say Ghost Breakers. Like, there's too many people. So they just decided the filmmakers just were like, you know what? We're not going to do it. We're just going to go for it with Ghostbusters and just kind of hope for the best that they can work out the rights with Universal Pictures to get the rights to calling it Ghostbusters, which is, it's crazy.
That is kind of crazy. That's a bold move.
Yes.
To do that.
Yes. And then, they made a ton of money. It was the highest grossing comedy film until Home Alone came along.
Really?
Which is nuts. Yeah.
Home Alone, yeah. I guess Home Alone is a comedy. I don't know what I'm thinking.
It's a comedy.
It's a comedy. We're giving it. I get it. I get it.
Which they're remaking Home Alone as well. So, fun stuff. Yeah. There are no more original ideas left in Hollywood. That's just kind of how it is. Nostalgia wins everything. Well, those are the cool trailers coming out. Honorable mention does go out to the latest Lost in Space trailer. That one is amazing. The budget for this thing looks off the charts. Like it's going to be a really cool thing to watch after you go see Rise of Skywalker, because it comes out on Christmas Eve. So look for that on Netflix.
Let's look around the region and take our pick of the week.
Shut up and take my money.
All right, so each week we like to choose something and put the official Geek State stamp on it. And James, since you're back on the show this week, you go first. I
will go first, Chris. And I don't have an item so much as I have a mindset and a to-do, friends. And that is, I suggest you do your Christmas shopping or your holiday shopping. I have once again made the horrible mistake of waiting until the last minute. Now I don't know when I'm going to get it done. So I got to tell you guys to go out there and get it done quick, because time is running out. And this is like a PSA almost. I mean, things have been busy in the James Kelly life these past couple weeks.
Sure.
Lost track of time. We're talking about Star Wars comes out in 9 days, Chris. 9 days.
Yeah. As of recording. Yeah.
Huge.
Even less.
Huge. Right. So you do the math. We're down to less than 14 days. That's less than 2 weeks until Christmas. And, figure it out. List is not getting shorter. You see?
No. And the longer you wait, the longer it gets.
Now while I'm sitting here talking to you, no, I'm just but go take care of all the people on your list.
I love it. And you know what? It's funny because my picks of the week are items that I'm suggesting for Christmas gifts. I always have people at work ask me recommendations for things. And usually I ask a few questions, like, well, what are they into? Or, what's your budget? So I have 2 items that I'm putting my stamp of approval on. The first one is a small object, a small item. It's like $30 depending. Amazon usually runs sales on these things all the time. It's the Anker Soundcore 2, and it's a small Bluetooth speaker that has, it's for its size. You wouldn't think it would sound as good as it does. It sounds amazing. The battery lasts like 24 hours on this thing. It's rugged and, it can get wet. I mean, don't submerge it in water, but you can take this thing anywhere. It's fantastic. Amazon usually has sales. It's one of my favorite Bluetooth speakers. Now, the other one I mentioned earlier is the Oculus Quest. I have the smaller version. They have 2 versions of it. I got the $399 one. And I find that I'm doing fine on space. And I feel comfortable enough that if I'm like, I need some space, I can delete a game because I can just re-download it. No big deal. But I haven't got anywhere near close to filling it anyways. But for right now, if you're interested in getting into the VR, kind of arena, this is really a great choice. Also, the Oculus Go has been on sale, which if you're just wanting to like watch Netflix and kind of video stuff with it, the Oculus Go is also a really great deal. I think right now it's on sale for like $150. So head on out, get your stuff, get ready for Christmas. We will be back with a brand new show once both of us have seen The Rise of Skywalker. So if it's not on its normal time for you and you're like, where's the newest episode of the Geek State? It's because we got to make sure James has seen it. We also got to make sure that everyone in our, all the Geek State listeners have seen the movie or had a chance to, because when we do come back, we're going to dive in, we're going to discuss, we're going to break down, we're going to geek out. It's going to be a great time. So be looking for that as our next episode. So from all of us here at the Geek State, stay excellent to each other, and we'll see you next time.
Dressed this way, she's a Navy wave. But beneath that uniform, she is the Wonder Woman doll. And now you can create your own Wonder Woman adventures with these other dolls. Major Steve Trevor, Nubia, Wonder Woman Super Foe.
Gotcha, Major.
Wonder Woman, Major Steve Trevor, and Nubia dolls sold separately. By Mego.
Excellent.
James, if the good thing is that you don't get to see me while I record, because I legitimately, every time I say stay excellent to each other and see you next time, I'm waving.
You're waving?
Like goodbye.
Oh, wow.
I'm like wave. I just now realized I do that. Well, I was like, we'll see you next time.
Good thing you can't see me, Chris, because I'm naked. No, I'm just kidding. Of course I wouldn't do that.
Of course, never.
Never.
Thank God we're not live streaming on Twitch.